Hello teachers, and welcome to the norming video for the constructed response section for 5th grade science for CA3. Before you begin the norming process, please download or print the exemplar responses you will find PDF'd underneath this video. We first take a look at the test. On the left-hand side you'll see the rubric, and on the right-hand side you'll see a copy of the actual test. For construction, this question is also worth a total of 2 points. It has to do with the density of materials, and then this picture shows them how those materials float or sink in various liquids. As you see right here, it will give you the same picture with all of the parts filled in. Scholars should receive 0 points if they only really note that one of them is correct, or that they get 0 of them correct. They should receive 1 point if they get 2 or 3 correct, and then they should receive 2 full points if all 4 of the materials are labeled just like they are right over here. And they can either write the name, or if they write the density, that's okay also. For question number 3, we're going to move on to the constructed response questions that are all about landforms. So you'll notice that this is a pretty lengthy question. It goes over several different landforms. This is in total worth 9 points, as you see on the rubric over here, and each individual part is going to be worth 3 points. So it asks, for each of the questions, it will ask them to identify the landform that they see, explain the natural force that caused the landform, and the process that caused the landform. So for this question, this landform is a desert arch. It is formed by wind, and the wind weathered and eroded softer rock layers to create the arch. When you download the exemplar response, you'll see this written out, so you can see what it may look like when scholars answer the question. You can see right here that over here it'll just say explains the natural force. Well, the natural force is wind, and weathering and erosion caused the arch to be created. For part B, right here, this is the landform right here that it is asking scholars to identify and to note the natural force and process that created the landform. So this landform is a delta, and scholars should write that deltas are formed from the deposition of sediment carried by a river as the water flows slow down at the mouth of a river. So the landform's name is a delta. It is, the natural force is deposition, and the process is flowing water. For the third question about landforms, part C, it is the same thing. They need to identify, explain the natural force and the process. So this landform is a canyon, and it is formed when a river or flowing water erodes away the rock. So name of it is a canyon, the natural force is erosion, and the process is flowing water or flowing river that carves out the rock. Okay. So for this next one, it is asking scholars to design a lab and gives them a scenario that they should be familiar with about how sidewalks can become really slippery when they're covered with ice. And so they're asked to design an experiment about what happens when different types of salt and ice come together, and to figure out what type of salt would be best for melting ice on the steps of a sidewalk, or steps and a sidewalk. So it gives them all of the materials that they have, and then they have to design the experiment. So we get started. Number 4, Come right over here. So number 4 right here is worth 3 points total for part A and B. The very first question asks them to state a problem. So they should state it in a testable question that they are able to test. So one thing they could write is, does the type of salt affect the rate at which ice melts? Or they could ask the question, does rock salt or table salt melt ice faster? So either one of those types of testable questions, and that will give these scholars 1 point. Part B is also worth 1 point, and scholars need to identify the independent variable. And the independent variable in this case is the type of salt. So they can either write the type of salt, or they can write rock salt or table salt, and that's them identifying the independent variable. That will receive 1 point. And then for this last part down here, what is the dependent variable? They should note how fast the ice melts or the time it takes the ice to melt, and that will get them 1 point also. We go down here for number 5. So number 5 is worth 2 points total, as you can see right over here. So the hypothesis must include both the independent variable and the dependent variable, and it must be written in a way that shows that it is testable. So one example is that the scholar could write something like, I think the rock salt will cause the ice to melt fastest. Or, I think the table salt will cause the ice to melt the fastest. So they will receive 1 point for identifying the independent and dependent variable. And then another point if it's testable, if it's something they can actually design an experiment around. Okay, and then question 6 asks them to write out all of the procedures for their experiment. This will vary a little bit scholar to scholar, so be sure to read through them carefully and note that it contains each of these parts in the rubric. So the first thing you want to make sure is that whatever they outline actually addresses the problem that they noted at the very beginning in question number 4. You also want to make sure that it's something that's replicable, so not something that only they understand or that only they can do because it's too specific to an area or a certain item. And then you also want to make sure that they are controlling for important variables. So be sure for this question to check the exemplar because there's an example written out. You want them to start off by talking about gathering the materials, using the ice cubes they have in their materials list to put in the paper cups, to put rock salt and table salt, and to measure it out so that it's the same amount they're putting in each one, to put the salt on each of the ice cubes, to time it, record observations at set intervals, and then record times when the ice melts completely. And then also an important part is that they repeat more than once so that their data is more valid. So if you have any questions about number 6 or you're unsure about the procedures that one of your scholars wrote out, please post it on the discussion board that is on Blackboard. Thank you.